Hi everybody, it's Matt from The Pen Habit, back again for another pen review video, and this one, y'all, that's all I gotta say, y'all. This little pen coffin came from an American company named Franklin-Christoph. This is the first Franklin-Christoph pen I've ever laid my hands on, and I have to tell you, I am pretty darn impressed. Pretty darn impressed indeed. So here is the pen coffin. Open up the pen coffin, you know, standard satin lining, and then it's got a nice padded, like velveteen bed here. Comes with a few cards. We'll talk about the pen in a moment, but do a little bit. So your Franklin-Christoph card with their address, and I'll just put this here because I want to drum up as much business for them. This pen is nice enough that I am happy to do some free advertising. And I will just go on to say I did pay for this pen myself. They're not paying me to say this, so this is completely unsolicited. Then this is the lifetime warranty card that comes with the pen. And finally, if you've heard me talk about my pens before, the name Masuyama probably rings a bell. Mike Masuyama is one of the most well-known nib meisters in the United States. Used to be located in Georgia, I believe, and I think he's relocated to Los Angeles just recently. Franklin-Christoph works with Mr. Masuyama, who provides a bunch of custom grinds for their pens. And I ordered one of the pens for which he did a custom grind, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Then we get to this lovely little monster here. So, not to get too rhapsodic here, but I got this pen a couple of days ago and pulled it out, inked it up. I was at work, actually. Took the cap off, put the pen to the paper, wrote 2 letters, and then something not unlike this happened.
Oh, sweet mystery of life, at last I found thee. Oh, I know at last the secret of it all.
And I wish I could say I was exaggerating. Not by much, actually. This pen was one of the most incredible writing experiences I ever had on a first ink up of a pen. And I've had some good ones, but let's pull the pen out. This is a big pen. It's a very big pen. So to give you a little bit of a comparison here, here is the Franklin-Christoph Model 19, the Conway Stewart Wellington, the Mont Blanc 149, the Stipula Etruria, the Homo sapiens Bronze Age Oversize, and the TWSBI VAC 700. So this pen fits right in there, but I don't know if you can tell on the video, it is without doubt the widest pen of all of them. So the stats on the pen width, move those out of the way. The cap is 16.7 millimeters in diameter. The barrel at its widest point is 15.4 millimeters. Both of those are quite wide. Those are quite wide. But you take the cap off, and the section is a very, very comfortable. It tapers down a little bit, and it's a very comfortable 10.7 millimeters, which is right in the range that I really like for a pen. The cap has I'll see if I can get the light right here for you. It's got a Gothic F, which is the Franklin-Christoph logo with the 4 diamonds underneath. And then the clip has 4 diamonds on it as well. Now, the one thing I will say is this clip feels awfully flimsy for a pen this nice. I would have preferred that they use just a slightly heavier metal on the clip. It's springy, but I'm afraid I could bend it out of place if I put too much pressure on it. The pen has got this just beautiful glossy black finish. I mean, it really is a beautiful, I call it a piano black finish. because I play the piano and, you know, I have a shiny black piano. So that's what this reminds me of. I went you can get different colors of bands in the acrylic here. I went with the King's Gold, and I don't know how they do this, whether it's a separate layer of acrylic or whether they put paint on and cover it up. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but it is beautiful. Now, I will say that the gold on my pens is darker than what they show on the pictures on the Franklin-Christoph website. So my hunch is those probably were color punched just a little bit. They're still very beautiful, and I don't regret going with the gold at all. It would have been a little nice for them to put a gold clip on here to match the gold accents, but I'm not being picky. I believe it also comes in what they call cherry ice and a white, which, again, being a piano player, maybe the white would have been a good option for me. In any case, the barrel, it says Franklin-Christoph here on the bottom of the cap, and then 19, which is the model number of this pen. The barrel tapers down at the end. It's basically cylindrical, and then it tapers down right here at the very end. And this is a pretty standard look for a lot of the Franklin-Christoph pens. A lot of them have kind of this tapered end here. So, it fits very, very nicely with the pen, I think. Then the bottom is just kind of a rounded flat bottom on the pen. There's no engravings or anything like that. So the full pen is 127 millimeters without the cap on, which is a fairly standard length. With the cap, it's 138. And then posted, and the pen does post, it is 170 millimeters. Now, the pen fits very comfortably in my hand without posting. You can see here, it fits quite comfortably. And the nib is large enough that I can actually hold on to the section and get the nib to the paper at the right angle. And the right angle is going to be important. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But the pen can be posted, and it is quite comfortable posted. It does get a little long, but it's not back heavy at all. It's still quite well balanced. It's a very light pen, however. Now, I am one of those people who, when I first started with fountain pens, my first experience were with wood-turned pens that had a brass lining on the inside. So they were heavy pens. And I equated weight with quality. It didn't take me long to get past that. When I got my first Edison pen, I was astonished by how light it was, but I could tell immediately it was made with very exacting standards and to a very high quality. And I feel the same way about this pen. It's a beautifully made pen. It is 16 grams with ink, uncapped, and 26 with the cap on, whether capped or posted. Another weird thing, it's pretty standard shaped feed on the back. The threads, though, on this pen are a little unusual. So let me, for comparison here, pull up the threads. These are the threads on my Wellington. I'm going to just turn up the light here just a touch. You can see that they've got several threads running in parallel on the body there. When you look at, there's basically a single thread, just one big long thread. So the one thing I found is I feel like that keeps the pen from being as airtight as I would like. And I have to tighten it down a little bit more than I would probably normally do, because it feels like it gets loose a little too easily. There's not enough friction on multiple threads, so you have to rely on a single big thread. That's one thing I don't really love about the pen, but when we're talking about things I don't love about the pen, that's pretty much it. And that's a really small thing. It is a cartridge converter pen. So the barrel comes off, and they do have the more standard threads here. Take standard international cartridges or converters, and it will take the long ones because it is such a large pen. Comes with a converter, and it's a fairly standard converter, but well made. Nothing to write home about there. However, the thing to write home about is this little piece of metal right here. So Franklin-Christoph offers several standard nib sizes: extra fine, medium, broad, and I think they've got a 1.1 millimeter stub. In addition, and they offer those in both stainless steel and, if you want to pay extra, 18 karat gold. In addition, however, They offer several nibs ground by Mr. Masuyama, including, I believe, a needlepoint nib for which he is well known, and a medium italic and a broad italic. I ordered the medium italic, and if you're familiar with fountain pen terminology, these are words you're familiar with, but forgive me for those who aren't. A standard nib is what's known as a round nib, and it's basically just a ball of iridium or whatever the tipping material is at the end. That makes for a very nice, smooth writing experience. A stub nib is where the tip of the nib is kind of flattened out, so you'll get narrower cross strokes and wider downstrokes, but the edges are rounded, still a fair bit, to allow the pen to move a little bit more smoothly across the paper. A pure italic is like this. It's very, very flat and sharp edges, so you can get a really crisp edge on the cross strokes and the downstrokes. It's very hard to write with those kinds of pens in cursive, however. Franklin-Christoph, according to their website, has Mr. Masuyama ground their nibs to more of what's known as a cursive italic. It's still more like this, but they've just refined the edges just a little bit more, smoothed them out, so it can be written with more of a cursive bent to it. Now, I have talked with a couple of nibmeisters who say that the cursive italic nib is really a nib that was developed by it's a grind developed by Richard Binder, and he's the only one who does it. And, I had one nibmeister in particular say, good luck trying to find someone who will do a cursive italic grind for you. I think if anyone could pull off a cursive italic grind, and if anyone has, it would be the grind on this pen. It is perfect. It is stunning and beautiful and perfect. And this nib is awesome. So I've had no problem writing with cursive, but I'll talk a little bit more about that after the writing sample. So let's go ahead. I'm going to dive in now to the writing sample and show you how this beauty writes, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the nib and some potential precautions you might want to be aware of. So here we go. All right, we are using the Franklin-Christoph 1901, which I believe is when the original Franklin-Christoph company was founded, if I'm remembering my website lore correctly. The nib is a 18 karat gold, medium italic, Masuyama grind. And the ink, to match the gold in the bands here, is the very lovely Pelican or Pelican, Adelstein, amber. And for those not familiar with this ink, I believe this was the ink of the year for 2013. Don't quote me on that, for the Pelican line. And it is a beautiful ink. It's kind of a butterscotchy, caramelly color with a bit of a red undertone. And on the right paper with right wetness, it's a nice shader, and it has this beautiful red outline, sheen, kind of a reddish orange sheen, almost a pink salmon color along the edges that just shines, especially on Tomoe River paper. It's a really quite a beautiful ink. I like it a lot. Like most Pelican Adelstein inks, however, it does tend to run a little bit drier than you might expect for, let's say, an Iroshizuku ink or a Diatramentis ink. This will run just a little bit on the drier side there. All right, and of course we are on a Rhodia dot pad. So here's our little quote for today. putting words into the quotee's mouth. Okay. So as you can see from my writing, I had no problems writing in cursive with this pen. Now, you may have noticed on the S here, when I did that, I did an upstroke and then a downstroke, and the upstroke didn't write. It got a bit of a hard start there. One of the things you need to be aware of with with italic nibs is the placement on the paper is important. So if you are the kind of person who rolls your nib, you are going to have some problems with this pen. There's just no way around it. If you write with the nib dead on, I think you're going to be surprised at how well it writes. I know I was. It did take me about 15 minutes of writing with this pen to really get used to the way the nib had to sit on the paper. Once I did, it was beautiful. The other thing I'll say is, in my experience, this nib with its sharper edges does not like textured paper. So if you're the kind of person who really likes using laid papers or cotton papers or papers with a lot of texture in them, you might want to skip this nib and stick with a stub or a round nib. I tried using this pen to write a letter on Verge de France from Gilles Lalo, and it was not pleasant to write with. The nib kept getting caught in the lines of the paper. It was not, I was not enjoying that. But you put this pen to some Clairefontaine or some Rhodia or even some Tomoe River paper, it's a really beautiful, beautiful feeling nib on the paper. The other thing is, with an 18 karat gold nib, you're going to get more spring than you would if you stuck with the stainless steel nibs. And you can even get these Masuyama grinds in the stainless steel. But I wanted a little bit more spring. I do tend to like, you can see there's a little bit of a spring. Now, this is in no way, shape, or form a flex nib at all. There's nothing about this pen that is flexy. It is just a little bit of a spring. And you'll find that if you know how to really work it and get that bounce, you can actually really get some interesting shading effects. On the downstrokes, you just really get that bounce, and you can see there's just some really lovely shading on this ink. To show you the specifics, so there it is. I had the pen rotated slightly, so there we go. So those are the downstrokes. Here are the cross strokes by comparison. You can see they're quite a bit narrower. So if I do them side by side, if I do the downstroke like that, and then the cross stroke like this, you can see the difference between the two. It really is, you get a lot of nice line variation just by the kind of nib that it is. The one thing I will say, I've said it already. You can get the pen to railroad a little bit if you push it too hard, so you don't want to do that. And I think I do want to try this pen with a slightly wetter ink. I have had a couple of instances where the feed has just barely struggled to keep up with this ink, but as I mentioned, Adelstein inks do tend to run a little bit drier than something like a Diatramentis or a diamine, or an Iroshizuku. So upside down writing, it's fine. It's actually pretty smooth for upside down writing. The ink flow is not great, but I'm not sure why you would do an upside down writing with a pen like this. Write with it the way it was intended to be written, because it's such a nice writing experience. You see there, I had it rotated again. It takes a little bit of time to get used to, but once you do, my goodness, what a wonderful feel to this nib. And I will say, you've seen me have a few hard starts here and there. This is entirely my technique. It is not the pen, because I do tend to roll my pen and have it off center a little bit. That's just the way I write. Normally, I would scoop myself over here so the pen is, so the writing is off to my right. and all of a sudden it starts working properly. It's mostly because I'm hunched over a pad so I can get the pad on the paper and be in shot and everything. So, yeah. Wow, I like this pen. I like this pen a lot. It's very easily catapulted itself within the first 3 words I wrote into the top 5 pens in my collection and may very well be at number 1. It's a beautiful pen. It fits my hand wonderfully. It's got a gorgeous nib with a really interesting design and a great grind by Mr. Masuyama, who I've called a wizard before, but I realized is really kind of disrespectful to him because he is not a wizard. He is, I'm sure, worked like crazy to become the master that he is. And he really is a master. What he does with nibs is nothing short of astonishing. This is the second one I've gotten from him, and I am hooked. So at $300 for an 18-karat gold nib, custom ground by Mr. Masuyama on a really well-made pen from an American company, this is a great value. And you can get a pen for $200, $225, something like that, with a steel nib that I think will probably perform just as well. Because this is my first Franklin-Christoph pen, I don't know if I just really lucked out. I don't suspect I do. Most of the people I've talked to said they really like their Franklin-Christophs. And this one, man, it's a great one. I suspect this is going to be inked up for a long, long time in my collection. So if you have any questions about this pen or any of the other reviews you've seen, please leave a question in the comments below. I'm trying to do a better job of answering them and answering them in a timely manner. I do get a fair number of comments, so it's sometimes hard for me to keep up. Or you can reach out to me via social media. Check out all the links in the description below. And follow the link in the description below to penhabit.com, where you can see the rest of the close-up photos of this gorgeous pen and see my full written review with all the specs written out. Thank you again for watching. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video or subscribe to my YouTube channel, and we will see you here next time on The Pen Habit. Thanks for watching. Bye.